Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Unparalleled Universe for another action figure review. And today we're taking a very quick look at the McFarlaneToys Bloodshot. So let's go ahead and get into it, starting with the packaging. It's the standard packaging that we've seen on pretty much all McFarlaneToys lately. Down here it says Bloodshot, up here it says Bloodshot, over here it says McFarlaneToys. On the side we get a look at Vin Diesel as Bloodshot. On the back we get a look at the figure itself and then another shot of Vin Diesel as Bloodshot. Same thing on this side as the opposite side. And that's about it. It is collector friendly, but it's a bit of a pain to get the figure in and out. So if that's something you plan on doing, just know that it's kind of tough to get his legs out of where they have him in there. But you are able to take them out and put them back in the packaging. But enough about the box. Let's go ahead and talk about the figure. Okay, so here we have Bloodshot right out of the box, and I think this is a really good looking figure, and that's coming from someone that doesn't care about Bloodshot. I don't care about the movie. I just thought the figure looks nice, and having it in hand, I think they did a really good job with it. It really looks like a movie version of Bloodshot, especially from the waist up. I really like how the torso doesn't have like too much muscles. It doesn't look fake. It looks like an actual person's body rather than like a exaggerated like superhero body, if you know what I mean. So I like that a lot, and then the head sculpt is really nice. This is like a perfect Vin Diesel head sculpt, so that is really cool. And I love the way that the colors look. I like the white with the blue shading. I love the way that the eyes look. They really pop against the white skin, so that is really dope. And then the figure just has like a lot of nice sculpting, especially in the pants. Check this out. There's a bunch of straps and pads and armor pieces and all kinds of cool stuff. And I know a lot of people are like, why would an indestructible guy need armor on his pants? Really, who knows? Who gives a shit? It looks really cool. So I do like the way the pants look, and I love that he could put his guns into the holsters here, so that is dope. Let's see. And they fit all the way in there, so you don't have to worry about them falling out. If anything, they're probably a little too tight, but that's really cool that he could store those in there, and then he could hold his guns without any problem, as you could see. And I wanted to give you a closer look at the details on the pants because they really went all out. Check out the belt. Look at all the details in there, man. That's crazy. It wraps around the back here. Bunch of details back here that look really good. See that? That all looks really nice. And the color is good too. It's like blue with like a black wash. Check out the straps and stuff right here. The armor pieces with little like screws in them or nails or little rivets, whatever you want to call them. But yeah, look at all that stuff, man. There's a lot of crazy details in these legs. That's awesome. And then you come up to the shirt and it's plain. All you have is like the red dot here with like some blood dripping. Kinda, I guess that's how it's supposed to be. But yeah, that's dope. And one thing about McFarlaneToys, it feels like a lot of times they sculpt their whole figure and then they cut in the articulation. And as a result, some things can get a little awkward. Like check out the bicep right here. It looks really nice as is. I love the way that the articulation is cut right at the shirt. But then when you turn his arm, you have like these crazy sharp edges. And it looks a little strange. Luckily, you know, you could turn it at the shoulder if you want, or, you know, there's workarounds, but I just think that's kind of weird. And then same thing with like the elbows, you know, straight on, they look nice. And when he's just standing there, they look nice and smooth and they look good. But then once you bend them, there's a lot of sharp corners. So I wish things were a little bit more rounded there. But you know, that's okay. I mean, that's not a big deal. That's just something I notice on a lot of McFarlane figures. And someone recently brought that to my attention when we were talking about some other figures. And then I just started to look at that time is when I got this figure, and I just started to notice those kind of things on here. So, you know, that's kind of strange. I mean, I get it because their focus is sculpt and they're just kind of giving us articulation because we cry about it so much. So, you know, it is what it is. But then the other funny thing is there's some parts where they could have hit an articulation and then they didn't. Like in the legs, you know, there's no upper thigh swivel or anything. And they could have hit it inside of all these straps and everything like that without any problem, but they just decided not to do it. But if they like focus their sculpts around the articulation, they probably could have worked that in there without a big problem. And it wouldn't have obstructed the sculpt at all, which is something that McFarlaneToys is very concerned with. And, you know, I salute them for that. That's a good like philosophy to stand by, you know, to make the sculpt the priority and the articulation secondary, but still putting as much in as possible. I think that's good, but you know, I just wish they would kind of like, I don't know, I wish they would kind of consider the articulation a little bit more when they're sculpting the figures. And I think, you know, I think they would come out with better product if they did that. That's just my opinion. I don't know. I think for the most part, they're doing okay. But yeah, this figure looks good. I think they did a really good job with it, and they definitely nailed what they were going for. So I like it. And yeah, we already kind of saw the weapons, but let me go ahead and give you a closer look at these things because these are very well done too. Check out all the details on these. Look at all that weathering and stuff. It looks nice. And the sculpt on this thing is dope too. This is a really interesting looking gun. I like the way the scope looks with the red on it. That's awesome. But I really like all this weathering on here. Looks really good. And then the two handguns. I don't know much about guns, but these kind of remind me of like Desert Eagles. Does that sound right? Let me know in the comments, all you gun guys out there. But these look cool. There's a lot of details on them as well. They look really, really nice. And then last but not least, we have his big ass knife. Look at this thing. I don't even know. I mean, this is not really even a knife at this point. You got to call it a sword or I don't know, but it's insane. Look at that. Imagine getting hit in the face with those. Bam. That'll mess you up. But yeah, this is cool. I think all the weapons look good. And aside from these weapons, he does come with a little stand that I just left in the package because you have to destroy the packaging to get the stand out. But there's nothing to it. It's just a flat plastic black stand. And as you've already seen before, he really has no problem holding onto his guns. It's a little difficult to get him to look through the scope of his rifle type of gun, but it is possible. It just takes some patience and some work, but I was able to get it. It doesn't look as smooth as I wish, but I mean, it works, you know. I think that'll be all right. And then, of course, he has no problem holding onto his handguns, and that actually looks really cool. And now for some size comparisons. And this is definitely going to go all over the place because I don't have any characters that would go good with Bloodshot. He's definitely going to end up on my miscellaneous shelf. But let's go ahead and get into it, starting with Bloodshot alongside the Lightning Collection Red Ranger and the NECA movie Ninja Turtle Raphael. And then here we have him alongside the Shocker Toys Tick figure and the DC Collectibles DC Essentials Red Hood. And then now here we have him alongside the Marvel Select Gamerverse Spider-Man and the McFarlaneToys Sub-Zero. Next we have him alongside the Marvel Legends Groot and the 1000 Toys slash Sentinel Toys. I think that's who teamed up to make that awesome Iron Giant figure. And if you don't know the connection between these three figures, I feel bad for you. And then here we have him alongside the Mezco 112 Collective Dark Knight Batman and the 1000 Toys Hellboy. And then here we have him alongside the Marvel Legends Bucky Cap and Marvel Legends Pizza Spider-Man. And last but not least, we have him next to a Home Depot skeleton and next to a magic lamp for those of you that wish I would do better size comparisons. And I'm actually really surprised by the amount of articulation this figure has. I really wasn't expecting that, and I'm very impressed with how easy he is to pose around. So I'm pretty happy with that. But let's go ahead and get into it, starting with the head. It does move side to side. And he does have a head and neck setup very similar to import figures or to Mezco figures, where he has movement where the neck meets the head and where the neck meets the torso. So using both of those, he could look way up to right there. He could look down to about right there. And then you have a lot of side to side movement using the head and the neck. So that's dope. That's really useful to get like expressive poses with attitude and stuff. So I like that. And then for the torso, we have a diaphragm cut and then a waist cut, and using both of those together you get a lot of nice movement. Once again, it's very similar to a Mezco or an import figure, so that's dope. Check out how much he's able to go side to side. He could go back to about right there, and he could crunch forward a pretty good amount. You could crunch forward a decent amount, but I kind of want to pop it open and see what we could do in there, see if we can increase it a little bit. But you know, if I never get around to it, I'm okay with what we have going on here, so that's pretty good. And then you are able to twist right there at that diaphragm joint, and you could twist at the waist. And then for the arms, he does have these shoulder joints that McFarlane has been using lately, and they're pretty cool. It's pretty much like very similar to a Mafex joint, I guess you could say, but I don't think it's as effective because they left a little too much of the sculpt around the shoulder. I'm kind of thinking of trimming that out to see if I can increase the movement a little bit. But as you can see, we kind of have like a butterfly joint situation going on here. I apologize if you see some water coming out of him. I had him soaking in warm water so that I could move him around a little bit. He was pretty stiff out of the box. Not like crazy stiff. I didn't feel like I was going to break him or anything. But I wanted to soak him just so I could move him around a little bit better. But yeah, anyways, his shoulder has like a butterfly joint kind of setup. It's pretty cool. Let's see how far he could get his arms back. You can't really get his arms back too far. Only to about right there. And you can't really bring him forward. I kind of wish I could get his arms in front of him a little bit more, because when you put his arms straight like that, they're kind of like separated. See that? So I'm not crazy about that. Like I said, I might have to trim his shirt right here a little bit and see what I could do with it. But still, I mean, they're cool. They're cool shoulder joints. Could kind of lift them up a little bit, bring them down. And then his arms do go all the way around. They come out to the side. Then you have the upper bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, which are really nice. They get a good bend. And then you have a swivel at the wrist and a hinge at the wrist because you have a little ball joint there, as you could see. And then now moving on to the legs, that's where things get a little bit limited, especially right here in the hips, because he doesn't have any type of swivel. The leg itself is on like a peg and it plugs into the hip pegs, but there's too much sculpted pieces around here for it to swivel at all. You could see, like, if the sculpt was smaller or there wasn't so much going on here, then it would be able to swivel. But I really wish they would have just incorporated a swivel like in his thigh right here, because there's so much going on. They could have easily hidden it in here. So it's a shame that they didn't do that. But still, you know, it's not like you lose too much because you can't swivel the thighs. And like I said, you can move them a little bit. So, you know, whatever. It is what it is. And his legs do come out to the side. Can he do the splits? Almost. This leg doesn't seem to be going up as far as the other one. He could almost do the splits. He could bring his legs back to about right there, but then his butt sculpt gets in the way. And then you could bring his legs forward to about right there. So that's good. And then you have double jointed knees, which have a nice bend to them. And then the feet are kind of interesting. They're on little ball joints. So, I mean, you have a little bit of a rocker where the boot kind of plugs onto the ball joint. So there's a little bit of rocking there. And then you get some hinging forward and back on the ball joint. And then you get a swivel. But it's a little hindered because of the boot sculpt. But still, I think they did a good job with it. And I love the fact that the boot sculpt hides that ugly ball joint. So that's nice. And then we have toe articulation. So yeah, like I said, he's got a really nice amount of articulation. A lot of it is easy to use. And there is some work that could be done to improve it a little bit. But right out of the box, it's pretty good. All right, guys, so overall, even though I have no attachment to this character, I think this is a really cool figure, and McFarlaneToys definitely achieved their goal of giving us a good movie version of Bloodshot that has a nice sculpt and some good articulation. I do wish that he came with a couple of sets of interchangeable hands. I think that would have been perfect for this figure, and I also wish that he came with an interchangeable head that was more based on the comic book version of Bloodshot. Aside from that, I'm happy with the accessories that he came with, and even though he didn't come with another head, the head that he did come with is a really nice looking head sculpt. They did a great job with it. It looks just like Vin Diesel. My only worry about this figure is that I don't know if hardcore Bloodshot fans are going to gravitate to the movie, because I'm hearing a lot of bad things about it. Let me know in the comments if you've seen it, if you enjoy it, and also if you were a Bloodshot fan before, did this movie do the character justice? I want to know those things in the comments, so leave that down there. But yeah, man, at the end of the day, McFarlaneToys had a job to do. They were making a movie version of Bloodshot, and I think they did an incredible job with it. I'm really happy with this figure. There are a couple of things that I dislike about the way that they incorporated the articulation into the sculpt. There are some things that break up kind of awkwardly, but you know, McFarlaneToys is pretty new to stuffing articulation into their figures, so I have no doubt that they're going to get better as time goes on, and they'll find like that perfect balance between articulation and sculpt, or I hope they do anyways. We'll see. A couple of the upcoming figures they have coming out are promising, like Spawn doesn't seem to have any of those problems, and then a couple of the My Hero Academia figures look incredible. So I feel like they're on the way to getting it right, so we'll have to see. And before I get out of here, huge shout out to Ty from McFarlaneToys for hooking me up with this figure. I really appreciate it, man. I'm so happy that you did, because I'm very impressed with this figure, so nice work. And I think that's it. So thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Thank you very much. Peace.